Welcome to Formosa Dream Chasers.
We're your hosts, Mary Ann
and Ching-en.
Please join us as we explore the journeys amazing people take in pursuit of their dreams.
And get insights from their experiences.
Let's hit the road
and get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Formosa Dream Chasers. Last week, we caught up with fellow Filipino Rhea Leorag, who's been charting her own path across cultures, from Manila to Taipei to Seoul. She shared how studying in both Taiwan and South Korea broadened her view of the world, especially through the lens of music. Rhea is the digital marketing manager of the Asia-Pacific region at 1RPM. She recently earned her master's degree in cultural and creative industries from the Taipei National University of the Arts, with part of her studies spent in South Korea through an exchange program at the Korea National University of Arts. In this next part, we dive deeper into Rhea's experiences in South Korea, this time exploring the music scene up close. She shares her insights on the music industries in Taiwan, South Korea, and of course, the Philippines. So let's jump right back into the conversation with Rhea. Now that you were able to immerse yourself in that culture, in that music environment, what would you say stood out to you about, South Korea's music ecosystem?
I feel like that question, or when you talk music ecosystem, it's so multi-pronged. That it's a bit difficult to answer. I mean, in terms of school, it was more like learning about society and people's opinions on music. I also joined a lot of music conferences, both pop and indie. So I was able to get a glimpse of things. I feel like a year isn't really a deep dive. I would say it was more of just a glimpse of how things go. And what stood out to me, I think a similarity of Taiwan and Korea is that the government has budget for culture. I think the artists are receiving support from local governments, and that support translates into festivals, conferences, showcases that actually allow these artists to expose themselves as much as they can to the market. I would say that focusing on Korea now, I would say that from what I've seen, there is still a big divide on pop and indie, mainly because pop in Korea is K-pop. And there's just a vast difference between K-pop on TV and the K-pop training system versus rock shows in Hongdae where the bars are, or these college bands just trying to promote their music. A lot of artists, indie artists that I met, were surprisingly working individuals, like our musicians in the Philippines. They were doing 9 to 5 and playing in a bar in the evening, and that was surprising to me because the artists that I met in Taiwan in turn are more full-time artists and really dedicated to this craft. But yeah, I would say though that K-indie is one of the genres that has really big potential because they're very, very talented in terms of production, especially. There are always a lot of live shows going on and new artists popping up. Also, I guess I was able to immerse myself better, but there's a lot of foreign community support in the indie music industry in Seoul as well. So that was fun to explore. I wish I had time to integrate myself in that community more, but I left. And that's the community that I'm trying to find here, actually, because I haven't, unfortunately.
I'm curious on something else you touched upon. As we were talking about K-pop, and you mentioned about the K-training for that industry. I think all of us have this idea of what K-training is. Is it similar to what you thought it would be, or
is it as bad as people think?
Yes, and is it as prevalent for those living outside of South Korea? It seems to me that a lot of people want to be, idols or be part of K-pop, and I don't know if that's actually true.
Honestly, I I wasn't that privy to that side of K-pop. I think it does exist, but like daily life in Seoul, you don't really see it that much. What I was able to see though, or like take part in at least, is the production side of things, the song production side of things. And I was surprised to find out that any given day, there would be like tens or let's say tens or hundreds maybe, of like songwriting camps or producer camps going on for K-pop. And what happens in these camps is like they bring over producers from other countries usually, and also with Korean producers. Some artists I work with join these camps, and they would just be making songs. And for like, I don't know, 3 straight days or 5 straight days in Seoul or in other parts of Korea. And from these camps, the artist teams would select what comes out in the albums. And apart from that, there's also like producers from everywhere in the world just sending over tracks to these companies, especially the big four, right? And it fascinated me just how much of an industrial system it actually is, as compared to, an indie artist writing his or her song, promoting it on socials and releasing it on either on his or her own, or, with a small team like that. That's very fascinating for me.
Actually, if you didn't bring that up, I wouldn't even be aware there was that side of things. Like you said, it sounds very much like mass production, in a way, right? And
Yeah.
at the same time, like for me, I got to say, like, I also admire the industry, like how much hard work goes into it, and also the discipline. I mean, because in my head, like as an artist, most people would wait for inspiration before they're able to turn out something, right? But
Yeah, they
the fact
have
that
to.
yeah, the fact that they have to do it within 3 days, you find your inspiration. You don't wait for it to come to you, you know?
Yeah. It's also interesting because it's work. Like, I think growing up in the Philippines, my view of art and music is always more of an outlet, mainly
Yeah.
because like people don't really earn from music in our country, right? But like what I've learned in the past 3 years is seeing all these artists and all these, music business people, like it's a job. It's a business. And they're here to, if they're artists, like they're here to write, they're here to perform. It's something they do for sustenance.
That's a very interesting perspective. And speaking of perspective, since we talked about, producing and writing music, comparing them between the three countries, did you observe anything different in terms of the way they promote music in, let's say, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines? Is there a big difference?
Hmm. I think just generally speaking, and I'm just gonna go indie now because K-pop is its own world. So indie wise, I think generally it's all the same in the sense that everything is digital now. Like, you know, there are still radio stations, there are still TV stations, but I even now a lot of those media avenues would look at your socials first if you're worth putting on their show or something like that. And I would say everything is digital, and the difference just lies on which platforms work best in each country. Like for the Philippines, it's TikTok, obviously, massively TikTok. For Korea right now, I'm seeing that the biggest platform people are looking at for music discovery is YouTube, because Spotify is still trying to break ground in Korea, and Melon is still kind of strong, waning. Melon is the local platform. It's like their KK box. So the local platforms are still pretty strong, although waning a little bit because the global platforms are getting stronger. YouTube is definitely getting stronger. Instagram is also a big platform in Korea now. TikTok is okay, but more so Instagram. There are also a lot of these accounts that just translate music into Korean. So a lot of foreign artists are able to break into the market because their song was posted by these accounts that translate lyrics into Korean, and like they went viral. I have at least a couple of artists that had happened to, a couple of Australian artists. And in Taiwan, I'm hearing YouTube is also big, but I'm hearing that Threads is becoming a more important platform in Taiwan these days. That's something I'm also still exploring. But yeah, I think that everything is just digital. Majority of music promotion is digital these days. I think that's the main thing. Yeah.
So the takeaway then is if you are an aspiring musician, to make sure to also have your content out there in the social media platforms to get yourself noticed, right?
I feel like that's what we talked about last year also,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yes. Because last year we kind of really focused on your job. And the message apparently stays the same.
Yeah. And there's also play-in festivals or something. Because there are a lot of festivals in Korea and here. And it's a festival culture. Like the young people, like we're so old, but the young people are actually like going into these festivals and discovering artists there. So it's nice. And it's nice for me because I love going to festivals and there's always something to look forward to almost every month or every 2 weeks.
Shifting the topic a little bit more to something personal. So looking back at this last 3 years where you dedicated yourself to improving and elevating yourself academically, what would you say was a key lesson for you from your time in, South Korea or Taiwan that you will carry with you moving forward?
So hard.
I like these philosophical questions.
No, I think something that I had to tell myself a lot living in Seoul, and I still carry with me now. What's this? It's a buzzword on social media lately. It's like to be part of a community, you have to be the community or something like that.
Okay.
Because I've had to like form new communities in these two countries that I lived in, right? Like, and as an introvert, it's so hard to
Right.
to force like I've had to force myself to show up, but like there's always something interesting happening, and if you're lucky, the right people that you vibe with, that you can make friends with, or that you can do activities with, do exist in that city. You just have to show up to find them.
Okay.
And yeah, I think this is like pretty basic advice for people who move into different countries or cultures, right? Like you have to like do those activities, show up, reach out to people even. And just that, like, because when you move away from home, you're losing so much of your support system and your community that you have to rebuild in the new place that you're in. And you just have to keep showing up for yourself and showing up for other people as well. And that's something I've been reminding myself over and over. Yeah.
Especially on the whole, being an introvert part, and we just prefer being on our own time in our own space. That
Yeah,
it,
but
it can be a challenge. But you're right.
oh my God.
But you're right.
Yeah.
You do have to kind of push yourself to go out and meet people, because at the same time, you never know, like these might just become your, best friend or something. So, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, yeah.
also listen to your gut, I guess. At least to me, that has worked a lot. Like there was, for example, I would go out for like, there was a variety show shoot, I think, that I signed up for, because there are a lot of these things that you can just sign up for. And then I didn't want to go up until the last minute before I had to leave the house. I didn't want to go. And then
Okay.
when I came there, it was just not the vibe that I wanted, I guess. And I wasn't comfortable in that environment. And so I left in the middle of it. And like, like you can feel it when you're already forcing yourself too much and
And
it doesn't feel good anymore.
right.
Then you leave because you
Yeah.
can leave.
Yeah.
Like you can show up and you can also leave.
Yeah. You don't have to force yourself to be polite, and sometimes you just need to do
Yeah.
what's right for you. That's actually important. On another note, and this is something totally different from what we've been talking about, how safe would you say South Korea is?
Not safe. No.
Because you hear about all of these stories about how this is not bashing. This is like an inquisitive, investigative, wanting to know better because I've never been there and I actually do want to go there, but I'm really curious, right? This is taken from that perspective. It's not bashing another country or their culture
Yeah.
or environment. So you hear also a lot about these, let's say, treatment that women get there in South Korea. So, being a woman yourself, having studied there and lived there for a while, how factual would you say are these statements or assumptions?
Whew. They're definitely factual because like people who share them on social media or like, word of mouth. Like usually these are people who experience it. You see it even in K-drama. There's so much K-drama that depict these incidents. I would say based on my experience, I just generally don't go out as late as I would in Taiwan. And thankfully I live in a well-lit neighborhood, so that felt safer for me. Yeah, I think because of what I've been told, and
Right.
stories that I've heard, I was generally just more careful. The only time it wasn't like such a bad experience, but I did go to the club street in Hongdae. Hongdae is famously like a club area, but they also have like indie music venues. So I wasn't going to the club area on purpose. It was just a place that we were passing by. But I remember this was during a time when like the Hongdae boy was trending on TikTok. It was a trend where creators would like mimic how boys in this particular area, men but not really, boys in this particular area would be like in your face,
Right.
asking you to sleep with them and things like that.
Yeah.
And it was so funny to me that when that happened, when I was there unintentionally, it actually happened to me. Like,
Wow.
actually, guys would like come up to you and ask, like, hey, where are you from? Blah, blah. And like, my friend and I were just trying to get through that street. And I
Uh-huh.
was so surprised that, oh, okay, I thought this was just a social media trend, but they were actually just like up in your personal space, like, no personal space. I'm
Wow.
just trying to get with you. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's a thing. But yeah, I did come back after that
I'm
night.
very happy that you're here and chatting with me.
Still alive. But yeah, and I'm still like as updated with the news, with my Instagram and stuff, and you still see these stories of like stabbing in the subway,
Oh, right.
things like that. I think it's still part of how the culture is really a lot of repressed emotions,
Yeah.
a lot of repressed anger, I guess, that comes out. But at the same time, I remember we were talking about this also, like, I really, really like it there still. It's a
Okay.
matter of it's a matter of like finding your own space
Yeah.
in this chaotic society. Thankfully, Taiwan is, at least in my experience, like much safer. Yeah. But I guess like in the dynamicness, is that a thing? Of all of it, it's just pros and cons.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I like hearing stories or personal experiences from other people when they go to a new place to help clarify, certain situations. Because, like you say, something that may be prevalent doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but it also doesn't mean that it is untrue.
Yeah.
That's where we'll wrap up part two of our conversation with Rhea. But don't forget, part three is coming up next week.
This is Ching and Cho.
And Mary Ann Shoko.
See you guys next week. Bye.